So, good evening to
This call
all.
is now being recorded.
Good evening to all of you. We are starting the procedure, and to start off and give us the warm welcome, I I invite Professor K.M. Sethi, uh, the director, IUCSSRE. Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Welcome you all. Welcome Priya Thuvassery. This is the third in the series of lectures that we have organized as part of this engagement ecologies. We had a couple of lectures in the last 2 weeks by a scholar from South Africa and a scholar from United Kingdom. And now that we have an independent filmmaker, Delhi-based independent filmmaker. Priya is actually from Kerala. I have briefly watched a few of some of her YouTube videos, and I'm very much impressed by her work, field of ecology. More so, a statement from Priya had struck my mind. If a country is without documentaries, it's like a family without albums and like that. She underlines the importance of having more and more documentaries from a country like India with a significant number of issues, and also from the point of view of diversity. I'm sure that the invited guests of this lecture, they will be benefited from her presentation. So I formally welcome Priya and welcome all participants of this lecture, and enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sethi. And let me add, for this particular lecture, we are going along with Kochi Collective, a very enthusiastic academic platform in the making. And I would like to welcome all the three in the Kochi Collective as coordinators, Hamida, Aparna, and Shireen. And to introduce our speaker today, let me invite Shireen. Shireen Sharif, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mathew. Thank you, Sethi sir, for the very warm introduction and also for flagging off this particular talk. We are very fortunate to have with us today Ms. Priya Thuvassery. As we know, she's an independent filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, a television producer, cinematographer, and editor. An alumnus of the Anwar Jamal Kidwai Mass Communication Research Center, Jamia Millia Islamia. Ms. Priya has directed and edited several documentary films and television programs for the following institutes: the New Delhi Television, Fox Traveller, National Human Rights Commission, Public Service Broadcasting Trust, and Film Division of India, among many others. Ms. Priya has been co-director, currently also a board member for the International Association of Women in Radio and Television India chapter for the time period 2020-2022, and also has been working on a series of marine environment protection documentary films for the Environment Ministry, as well as a lot of marine research institutes in India. Now, talking about her work, within an overarching gender and feminist perspective, Ms. Priya her work focuses on the environment and its various interfaces with women, gender, and also community. Her works such as Coral Woman, Gidiko Vapatu, and Bavra Tera Pani, which is awaiting release, also highlights the relationship between local ecosystems and local communities. And it attempts to render visual, creative, and artistic manifestation to debates around development, environment, displacements, etc., which are very vital discussions that we see around us these days. Now, in the following session, Ms. Priya will be sharing glimpses of her work, which has we are very fortunate because this has won a lot of international and national accolades and has been screened at film festivals and art galleries and academic institutes. So we really look forward to having an engaging hour followed by robust discussions. Now, before we begin, let me request all the participants to kindly mute or disable the audio and video button if you haven't already done so, and to not press the present button. And also requesting the audience to kindly type in your queries with your names in the comment box, which will be taken up by a moderator at the end of the session for the speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sharing. So the digital floor is yours, Priya.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, KMCT and Shireen, for those wonderful words. And definitely thank you for Mathew and Aparna to pull this out. For a few moments, I was actually thinking, especially last night, what am I going to bring today? Generally, it's all about conversation about work, but I was thinking, what different can I bring here today? Because I do see a lot of researchers as audience for this particular session. So I was trying to bring in a bit of the research part I generally get into when making these films. And the way I had picked up the films are also somewhat on that line, related to environment, etc. I'll be doing a small presentation at any point of time. If you feel there is anything which I need to repeat, or please feel free to do that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Priya. Yeah. It's visible. Yeah.
Thank you. So I want to start the session by talking about why do I make films? I remember when I entered into journalism, I heard many things from, my family and relatives, because coming from a very traditional home, a middle class family from Malabar, I had heard stories of, or my parents had to hear stories that, she won't get married, or she'll have to work late at nights. So all that had happened, and this long 12-year of long journey. This is a question I often ask. Like, I fought all those barriers, and why do I make films, and why do I have this quest to make films? And each day, like, even my husband says that, we have fights, and sometimes he's not able to work, and I'm able to go back to work, and I'll forget everything else. So this is a question which always comes to my mind: why do I make films? And Agnes Varda is a very renowned filmmaker. She does documentary as well as fiction feature film. And this is a quote from her: I love filming real people. I love to connect with the kind of people we don't know so well. And I completely relate with what she's saying. And I think this beautifully explains why I love making films. This is like a snapshot of a story which I did back in 2013. The film is called My Sacred Glass Ball. The film was on virginity. And this is a community from Jaipur, and they strongly believed that a woman on her first night bleeds. And they even had a system, a practice, which is called Kukadi Prada, which is actually checking the white petticoat of a woman the next day. So you can see the community and meeting and getting these stories. That is always like these kind of unknown stories. Or let it be a bunch of women who got introduced to mobile phones from the first time. This is from Madhya Pradesh. This is my cinematographer, Nitali, and she is actually talking to Pashi Ben. So Nitali is a French woman, and Pashi Ben is a Gujarati woman. And I don't know in this photograph what they were communicating, but sometimes it reinforces my belief that, cinema doesn't have a particular language. It's a language of people. Or let it be going deep into the sea and with this bunch of women fishermen, and who dives deep inside without any oxygen mask or without any flippers. They just tie a steel plate to their slippers and just go deep diving, and they can hold their breath for a very long time. They go to do a collection of some algae, which I'll put my film open after the screening so that those people who are interested can see some of these films. Or let it be the love that I receive when I'm out there. This is my cinematographer getting some garlands. She's a very tomboyish woman, and it was so interesting to see how these women made her wear this jasmine flowers, or the delicious food they serve when we are part of it. This is a film which we'll be talking about. It's a tribal community in Wayanad. We went deep inside the forest with them, and one of the tribal community member, Madhavan, which was with us, he is a honey collector. So he actually climbed one of the trees and got us honey. And it was my first raw experience of, just plucking that honey and having it in this deep, dense forest. Or sometimes it's this adventure or things which come in. This is a glimpse of, we were in a yatra called Karwai Mohabbat. The person you see in the front in white shirt is Harsh Mandar. He's an activist, renowned activist, and he started this yatra called Karwai Mohabbat few years back, basically to spread the idea of love and respect when our country is going through so much of lynchings. And the incident actually happened in Rajasthan. We just entered Rajasthan, and Harshmandar wanted to put some flowers where Pehlu Khan was lynched in the name of carrying cattle. And as soon as we entered, the bus was actually, there was stone pelting. And what you see is actually a mark of stone pelting on the bridge and on the glass wall of the bus we were traveling. And the police actually didn't let us go. Instead of stopping those stone pelters, they were actually stopping us. So these experience makes it to the point that, for me, filmmaking is a chance to live many lifetimes. So that is what is the motivation. Still, it is very unfortunate at times. I hear documentaries are boring, but it's full of life, and that is what inspires me, and that makes me feel that I need to create. It's a selfish motive, I would say sometimes, that it is my eagerness to experience that life. And once you are experienced, or once you have that inspiration, there is this urge to create and then share. I think that would be something with any researcher also. You have a thought, and you research and research, and you wanted to bring something out, right? So coming to today's topic, we'll be actually focusing on, though I initially started, my earlier films were mostly about gender. I was very keen to document stories, empowering stories of women. Somewhere in the last 2 years, it got diverted. I see, otherwise the things were more organic, but now when I'm choosing certain subjects, I see a purposeful decision making which is going behind it. And those films are mainly around climate change, displacement, and most of the film I organically or purposefully bring a gender or a female perspective into those films. So today we'll be talking about three films. Coral Woman, it's a 52-minute long documentary film. And then it is Girigu Vapattu, or Let's Go to the Forest, and Bavra Tera Pani, Lake Your Water. All these three films are very different in each other. But I do see there are some common elements which I'm sure that we'll be able to discuss and discover in this presentation. So firstly, to talk about Coral Woman, I finished this film last year. Maybe we can just see the trailer before going into the film. The trailer will speak quite a lot in itself, it seems. Just see if the audio and video plays fine.
Yes, probably the audio could be a little more louder. I think the audio is a bit low, but the video is very fine.
Video is very fine. Uh, Let me just play it directly then. Better?
Yes, certainly, yes.
Thank you. So that was, there was some problem. Did you
Uh,
see the subtitles?
the subtitles were visible. The audio was a bit low sometimes for some, but
Mm-hmm.
that happens. But the subtitles were there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So that was Coral Woman. So now you can see my screen, right? My
Yes.
presentation? Yeah.
Yes, Priya.
So, to give a very quick intro about the film is about Uma Mani. She's a homemaker from Kodaikanal, living in the hills, and it came as a very accidental friendship. I was working with a national television at that point of time, and she called up our channel, and luckily the receptionist connected the phone to me, And she called up and she said, will your channel make a film on coral reefs of India? And as in a news channel, this is very common. Like, we get calls from people telling, will you do a story on this, or will you cover this incident which is happening? So I took this phone call also like something exactly like that. But somewhere, being a South Indian, her mother is from Palakkad, that really connected. And she asked for my phone number. I gave it to her. The very evening she called me and she told me, like, oh, I googled and I saw some of your work. You are a documentary filmmaker, so why don't you make a film on coral reefs? Then I was just very curious, who is this woman calling all the way, just, again and again with the same quest that, uh, will you make a film on coral reefs? And for me, I didn't know anything about coral reefs at that point. I didn't bother what they are. I didn't care for it. It was this beautiful things I had seen in my Nat Geo or a Discovery Channel while changing channels. But when I heard her story that she is 50 plus and she decided to learn swimming and diving just to see the coral reefs, that really struck me. I'm like, this is a very amazing story. I'm so inspired. I would like to make a film on you. And even when I said that to her, I didn't have any intention that I will be exploring this underwater film or a film which is talking about environmental issues. It was pure friendship that we kept for next 2 years, where I was actually reading about coral reefs. And it was, the inspiration was Uma, and forgetting her age, this, and diving is not like cycling or any other passion you have. It's going deep underwater, and I was a person who didn't even know to swim at that point of time. So she actually inspired me in a very big way. I was introduced to this world of beautiful corals. I read about it. I understood about quite a lot about that, not about the beauty of the corals, but also about facts like bleaching, what is happening to corals across India and abroad. Uh, so these are all things which came into my way. I read more about Indian corals, and then I was introduced to Gulf of Mannar. So you can actually see where it is located. It's in Tamil Nadu. It is this area which is closer to Rameshwaram, so that people can relate. Uh, and Gulf of Mannar is a marine national park. It is having the small 21 islands, which are like coral islands. And to give a little more details, since this is like a lot of researchers are there and will be a lot of interest in that, I just collated few information I know. It's one of the it's the first national park and biosphere, and it's not just in India, but also first marine biosphere reserve in India and Southeast Asia. So as I said, that it's this 21 uninhabited islands from Ramanathapuram to Tuticorin, which is, and how it was decided as a biosphere is mainly to protect coral reefs, seaweeds, and mangroves, etc. And it's a fishing port. Those people who are living in Kerala, a lot of fish we eat in Kerala comes from Tuticorin, because it's one of the very busy fishing port in South India. It has lots of biodiversity. There are 131 species of corals, 11 species of mangroves, 14 species of seagrass, more than 217 species of birds. And I had never seen them, but they are mostly endangered. The sea cow or dugong is seen in that coast. I had like experiences of people telling me that they had seen dugong, and at one point of time, people in that coast used to eat dugongs and sea turtles. I have heard stories from fishermen where they say that in this small islands, they used to see turtles coming to lay eggs, and they were unaware at that point of time, and they used to eat those eggs. Now they hardly see them. Now touching any of these are not allowed. They are all declared endangered. So they have whales, they have dolphins, and many other stuff. So even I didn't know much about, corals. Uh, it was actually making this film which made me understand this world of corals. I didn't know that corals are animals. I thought they were this beautiful rocks underwater till I made this film. I would like to show you a small piece from the film which beautifully explain what is a coral and what is actually happening to corals in Gulf of Mannar. It's a scene from the film.
Humans have had a very big impact on coral. Through things like pollution. Coral is both an animal as well as a plant, and it basically is an animal which has small microscopic plants that live inside its tissues called zooxanthellae, and they live in a symbiotic relationship with the coral animal. And this happens up to a particular temperature. But when the temperature rises beyond 29 degrees, the zooxanthellae starts becoming toxic to the coral. Instead of producing food for the animal, it starts producing toxins that kill the animal. So what the coral does is it removes the zooxanthellae from its tissue. So the zooxanthellae is what gives coral the color, and once it's ejected from the tissue, it looks completely blue. That's what is called coral bleaching. So coral bleaching is basically a stress response that the animal shows to a rise in temperature. And what's happening is this global climate change phenomena together with local stressors is what is really pushing coral reefs off their rails right now.
These corals have escaped from reaching it. Until this area, it died. Now this area survived and it is growing. Corals will be white only they are alive. After that, like 3 months, it will be occupied by algae. It will wither.
And there was a baby, this branching
Yeah,
corals,
yeah, yeah. Then
which survived. It looked so beautiful with all that.
you see, there are a lot of fish. If there is no coral, you won't see these fish. They're dead. It's like people without houses, birds without trees. In India, we have four major coral reef areas. One is Lakshadweep, one is Andaman, and we have two major reef areas in the mainland India. Gulf of Mannar is one of them. You have about 117 species of corals here. People from abroad when come to Gulf of Mannar, they haven't seen this reef anywhere in the world, and it provides livelihood to thousands of people. 2004 tsunami, nobody would have forgotten that. There was impact until Rameshwaram in the north and from Tiruchendur in the south. The area between Tuticorin and Rameshwaram escaped because of the corals. You can see the dead reef here. It used to be live, it used to be colorful, it used to be full of fish. Now it's like a barren land now. 2016, we lost about 16.2% of corals in Gulf of Mannar. It was actually during the third global coral bleaching. It happened between 2014 and 2017. All over the world, corals were damaged, starting from the Great Barrier Reef to the Caribbean. All the three ocean basins, Pacific, Indian, and Atlantic. I don't know how long it will take for Gulf of Mannar to recover back. Because, if there is another bleaching,
So that was a small clip. I hope video and audio played fine.
Yeah, yeah, it was running okay, Priya.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I think that explained quite a lot about what are corals and what are happening to corals in India. So definitely there is like climate change, which we are all very familiar about. What is it? Uh, in Gulf of Mannar area, it's not just the climate change impact, but also anthropogenic effects. So one factor is definitely climate change. Coral cover in this area. So you saw those islands, that beautiful green patches that Helicam shot. That is actually one of those islands. And during tsunami, like mentioned in that video, it is actually this coral islands which protected that coast. So there was impact above and below that particular area. But this Gulf of Mannar area was protected from tsunami mainly because of the coral reefs. But there is a huge drastic change in the percentage of corals from 37 percentage in 2005. It reduced to 24 percentage in 2018. This number is huge because this is a coast which is famous for corals. The Portuguese, Dutch, everybody came into that coast for the pearls, which was very famous. So fishermen in that community, in that area, they have this beautiful stories which they keep telling about. You know, their forefathers used to do this deep diving, and they used to go underwater and used to get those pearls. And for those pearls, all these foreigners came, and those that coast actually developed a lot because of that. Now you can't find those pearls anymore. Now the people who collect pearls are doing conch collection, and the percentage of corals are also gone down. Uh, Climate change is definitely a huge reason, and like mentioned in that video, this coast was impacted by 2010 2017, the series of bleaching which is happening worldwide. But along with that, there are anthropogenic impact, which is actually covered in the film in depth. You can watch it. So there is like destructive fishing, commercial trolling. Trolling is actually sweeping the coast, it's sweeping the sea floor. So it's not just fishing. The trollers just sweep the floor and destroy everything which comes into its way. So let it be corals, let it be the fish which they don't need, but trollers just sweep away everything. I've been to Tuticorin port. You are like, if you get a chance, please visit it. It's heartbreaking to see the amount of waste which trawlers produce along with fishing, because there are a lot of starfishes and other marine organisms which are like trolled and not used and becomes get converted into animal food, etc. Coral mining existed in this coast for a very long time. Even when you go to these places, the churches, many godowns, many buildings and walls are still made of corals. Coral mining is now completely banned since 2004, but it happened to a huge extent. 60% of the corals were actually mined. Uh, and by then, like a huge loss is already there. Then industrial pollution, that is something you will clearly see in the film, which I tried to document. And then along with that, there is domestic sewage, coastal development. I had like listened to a person who had worked in constructing the sports, and he didn't come and say it on the screen, but because he was so frightened. But he said that, we have built this port, many ports over coral reefs. And coming from a fisherman community, it was very heartbreaking for him to do that. But he was telling me such stories. And it's an industrial hub now. Now the port, like the blessing of this coast, may be the rich marine diversity, corals and pearls, and how it developed into a port now is actually a curse for the coast, according to me, because it invited a lot of industries, chemical industries from sterlite to thermal plants, all this. Adding to this is seaweed collection, etc. And it was very unfortunate to discover that uh, for a foreign algae called Kappa picus got introduced to this coast as an employment opportunity for the fisher women. And later, the scientists discovered that these Kappa picus is actually smothering the corals. So, to give an context to Kappa picus, it's algae which is used in Pepsi, etc. It's a carcinogen agent, and so something which was put into the sea, and then you can imagine it becomes so uncontrollable. So for me, how like a film about Uma became about climate change, became about this anthropogenic impacts, or all this was like witnessing what is happening. And then there is an urgency that, to use my art form and have communication, find creative ways to communicate this. So that's how Coral Woman journey was. Though it started with a very personal, beautiful story, I thought in the beginning that this is going to be a beautiful film about an inspiring woman, and she definitely is. But it took a shape of an environment disaster warning, and that resulted in something called we are doing right now, which is Coral Woman Impact. The film so the film is not remaining as just a film. We are taking it a step forward, which is impact. That means how we can use the film and join hands, because I do know there are researchers, I do know marine researchers, um, I do know conservationists, I do know about individuals who are conscious about environment. This becomes like individual closets of individual people working in different areas. How can we bring all of them together? And I thought like art is a beautiful way to bring people together. Let's collaborate and make this voice much louder. Uh, my screening experience, even in that coast, was many people were not aware. So there was this gap of lack of awareness which is still existing. So because I experienced it myself, I came from the same ignorance. The film actually inspired and changed many things in my personal life. So I wanted to share the same. I wanted to create a similar experience, and that's how Coral Woman Impact happened. We're working on three major impact goals, which is to inform and educate, then create awareness, and instill hope. Because I strongly believe in hope. Things can be reversed. Like the experiences we have, like we met children. It was so different to see how they responded to the film. Show it to a senior adults, and their reaction is, oh, this is really sad. But children were very different audience. I thought they won't understand many of the things which are mentioned in the film. The film was not made keeping in mind that they are my target audience, but the questions in the Q&A was like, okay, a coral started bleaching, but can I reverse it? Can I do something from my home that can stop it? So their questions were impact driven, and that also gave us an inspiration. So we have been participating in climate labs, trying to join hands with different people. We are working on a book which is inspired by the film. It's going to be an illustrated book on Coral Woman, which is completely meant for children, so that they can read and learn more about coral reefs. We're also looking for, you can check out coralwoman.com. The film is also, I just before the session I removed the password, so it is freely available. So the website is on. We want to make it into an interactive educational site, because you can learn a lot about coral reefs internationally, but when it comes to Indian corals, there is very less resource materials available. So we thought of developing this website into an interactive site where you can actually click on Lakshadweep and learn about the corals in Lakshadweep or Gulf of Mannar. So that is something which is in pipeline. We are definitely looking for collaborators. We are also having a very ambitious work, which is an art project, which is an art residency, where artists are going to come together and create an installation which will be inspired by the film. And a part of the installation will be underwater. It will be one of its kind in India. And we are also looking to have one installation on ground, which is actually a replica of the same, and that will be traveling across the coastal lines. So through all these activities, what we are trying to do is bring the attention and have conversations, because it's very important for us to have that conversations on. Look at this beautiful thing which children had done after one of the screenings. They pledged to save the corals. I have a collection of postcards like this, which were collected after exclusive screenings for children. And as I said, there is hope. Why that hope? And I think the COVID experience really strengthened my hope. Like, though things were really bad for each one of us, we are all um, like imprisoned in this flats and houses. But I think it gave a chance for most of us to pause and look around and understand things are going wrong. Life took a pause for definitely. And for corals also, there was some good impacts. That's something which I want to share. So this is out of a research which is done by a research institute in the same coast of Gulf of Mannar. The institute is called SDMRI, and they did a research from 25th May to 2nd June 2020, definitely the COVID time. And their findings were really interesting. The amount of plastic really reduced in the sea. You can see the difference, reduction by 51%, 28%. Sewage flow because of an industrial and all this waste reduced, which really improved overall coastal health. These are some findings from their research. There is also increase in dissolved oxygen level, number of reef fishes increased from 89 to 96. Average fish density increased, and there is a decrease in all these chemicals and other elements. These are all very scientific terms. I am an artist. I'm not going to all that, but I'm just quoting it from a research which came out of COVID-19 impact on that coast. So that brings us to next film, which is, I can keep on talking about Coral Woman. It's a film I have been living for almost 2 years and still continuing it. And I'm sure this impact work is going to be with me another 4-5 years minimum. But since we have time limitation, we have to talk about 2 more films. I will step into next.
Priya,
Yeah.
one suggestion is the Chrome window. If the film is open in a Chrome window, and if it could be opened as a tab in the Google Meet, probably the audio will be clearer if it's not in the Chrome window.
Okay, so I right click and play it, and how do I do that?
In the if it's the Chrome browser.
Oh, it's not. I'm not playing it online. I'm playing it from a desktop.
Desktop. Okay, so okay, fine. I should be fine there. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we are going to talk about Gidiku Vapatu. It's quite different from Coral Woman. This was for me also a one of its first kind of experience where, because I was working on a research done by someone else. So Helena Jolly is mine and Aparna's college mates. We were doing our graduation together at Marivanes College, and Helena just called up, and she's doing her PhD from Cambridge University. And she said, okay, I'm doing this research on a tribal community in Wayanad. And the biggest problem she was facing was when she talks about a tribal community and the issues they were facing, a foreigner who was sitting was imagining an African tribal community. And the social and geographical difference is huge, and the story is so different. So she wanted them, like anybody who reads her research, to have a visual reference to what the context she is speaking to. That's how the film was born. Gidiku Vapatu means let's go to the forest, and it's the local language of this community called Katunayakar. There are around 70,000 members and a unique honey hunter community. I'll show you the trailer, and then we can talk more about that. So, like, when you can clearly see there is a difference, there is a purpose for this film. Helena was very clear about what she needs. So I was just being the the filmmaker helping a researcher. So it's like a combination of uh, two people like that. I hope people will be able to hear it properly this time. I'll play it in VLC, maybe
Yeah, I think it's
then.
the your mic on your end. It's
Hmm.
also interfering sometimes with the other audio. That's right.
Yeah. So I'll play in VLC. It should be better.
Okay. Okay.
Initial few seconds are a little low, but then it will pick up. Yeah.
Good. It's good. Yeah.
So it was very different from the kind of films I generally make, but and this was made with a purpose. Uh, so it was the storytelling was very traditional, and it had its own limitations because the permission for many to shoot in this area was taken specifically for the film. Uh, so it had like, but the benefit was also we got access to parts of the forest which normal people are not allowed to go. So we explored quite a lot and spent some quite a lot of time with these tribal community. That was very different experience. And like these are communities which like Helena spent some 1 month before we started the shooting and got this trust from these people so that they share this story, because there is a huge difference. Most of them believed we are the outsiders when, and at the same time we were actually denying them to be them with their world, which is the forest. And when there is an elephant, like that kid was telling, he can understand how an elephant will behave and how to coexist. He even that small kid feels that he belongs to that world, and we are deciding what is good for some people. And we are actually telling them you are not allowed to go into the forest, you are not allowed to take some food items or hunt certain items. They live a sustainable life. That man who was taking the honey, he left some part of the honey for the honeybee. Before even climbing that tree, he actually prays and ask for forgiveness for taking that piece of honey. So I think it's we who have to learn quite a lot from these communities who do so sustainable way of living. I would like to share a small quote which Helena uh, presented. Yeah. So this is a quote which Helena shared about the film. The struggles of indigenous communities in India resonates with communities across the world. Most of these communities have a huge dependency on natural resources for subsistence and exhibit a strong cultural connection to nature. These indigenous communities share stories of oppression and forced displacement from nature and their culture. The narratives of oppression, be it through colonization, the caste system, or feudal system, often speak of multiple injustices, where more often than not, the brunt of the cost of natural resources degradation is borne by the women. I hope that through my research, I would add value to the existing natural resource management regimes and bring forth a compelling economic logic to help governments of countries, especially developing countries, promote conservation and protection of women in rural communities. So this is Helena Jolly. This is her. You can see her with her fellow researchers and people who are supporting us. And the man in that police uniform, he's actually from the community, a Kartanayaka community. And this is Madhavan. I'll just show another clip from the film, which actually summarizes why the purpose of this film, why such films are important, or similar researches are important to have. Sorry for my voice, I have been talking from the morning today, so it's losing at times. Yeah. Sound is fine?
Yet to come in.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, can you pause for a minute?
Yeah,
Hello?
sure. Yeah.
Madhi sir, this is Adarsh, okay? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, Adarsh,
Madhi
please.
sir, you said the sound will be fine if you play it in a Chrome tab, right?
Yes, Chrome tab, but I
Okay,
think
so ma'am, Priya ma'am, you can do one thing. If you have a browser open in your desktop, you just have to drag your video file. Just drag the video file to that browser.
Okay.
Okay, just drag the video file. Okay, just open the browser there, and
Yeah.
now just drag the video file to the browser. No, don't
Okay.
open the video file. Just
Yeah, I
click on.
dragged it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's opened in the Chrome browser, right? I mean,
You can
whatever
hear
browser
it
you use.
better? Yeah?
Yeah, could you play it now?
Yeah, it's playing.
It's not
Yes.
making any difference. It's not
No?
any difference. There's no difference, I think.
But let it be, the subtitle is there, so
You can't hear it all?
No.
it was feeble. Earlier we could a little more,
Oh,
but
this is the maximum for.
yes, now it is.
ത്യാഗിൻ്റെ ഒരു സന്തോഷമാണ് ഒരു നല്ല ഇതായി. കുറച്ച് പിന്നെ കോഴിക്കോട് വരെയൊക്കെ പോയിരുന്നു. ഈ ഒരു നമ്മളെ ഒരു സന്തോഷം പിന്നെ കാടിൻ്റെ അടുത്തുള്ളൊരു അവിടെ കിട്ടാൻ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടില്ല.
So that was Gidigu Wapattu, like the last sequence of the film. I think that last sequence summarizes what we really wanted to communicate. It was a film which was shot without any crew because even we got the permission saying like this is for a research purpose. So, and they were very sure that we should not carry huge equipments or anything. So it was not shot in a very traditional documentary making, but more from a research point of view. We were trying to get these nuances of the relationship with these communities having with tribals. So that was more about this film. I would now step into the last film, which is a film in progress. So that will be a very interesting experience for me to talk about a film which is actually in making, but do speaks about very important conversations about climate change, and especially from a very gender perspective. Film is called Bavra Tera Pani, Lake Your Water. To give a context of what and how this film is being made, I am now associated with Rural Digital Network, which is completely run by women from marginalized community. They are a bunch of amazing newsmakers from Bundelkhand area, which is UP and MP. So the land which is famous for its dacoits, a parched land, and this is like a bunch of women who fought against caste and gender, and is actually running a rural, one and only rural journalism online platform. So now Khabar area is actually expanding. So now they are a media house called Chambal Media, and it becomes it is like, you can, some facts about Kabul area: it is only women run brand of ethical and independent rural news, and like we have around 10 million people watching it monthly across multiple digital platforms. It is completely a network of women reporters. Like 90% is marginalized. Few of us from an urban experience is also part of the group. So mainly reporters are in UP and MP, and it's completely about hyper-local issue. I remember a colleague of mine telling me, you know, what is news for Khabal area is actually a hand pump which is not working in the village, which is not news for a mainstream channel. Like, I come from NDTV, so I do see that huge difference. What is news value completely changes when it reaches to Khabal area. It's so grassrooted. So when Chambal Media came in with not just producing news, we wanted to make films. So the way we are functioning is asking them, what do you want to be made into a film? And to give a little more background of Bundelkhand, it is severely impacted by climate change. The rainfall rate had gone really bad. It's a region which is heavily dependent on agriculture, so that economy also got impacted. Like, this was an image I captured while I was in Bundelkhand. This is a bunch of women who were actually, they walked some 4 kilometers to get water. They had a death in their family and they wanted water to take a bath after like a few days of some ritual. So they wanted to take a bath and there was no water in the village to do that ritual. So they walked kilometers to take that particular bath. So Bundelkhand has this huge issue, and it's a region which has highest number of migrants, and climate issue is very huge. And when you talk about, you know, farming and how livelihood is impacted, it's also like majority. When you talk about migrants or farmers, the image comes into most of our minds is so stereotyping of a man. But 60% of farmers in India are women. And when a water is not it's not there. When a hand pump is not working, it's the women who have more problem than the men, because men don't have to go and fetch water kilometers walking, but the women have to. And with the history Kabal area is having, they have witnessed these stories and documented it, and they really told me like we need to make a film on water and from a women perspective. So that's how we decided to make um, Bavra Tere Pani. It's a film which is in making. We were supposed to be shooting it um, in April, but then the COVID happened and this migrant issues. So the priorities completely changed. I will now show, oops, sorry. I'll just show the trailer. Sorry for the technical glitch. Yeah, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, the screen is visible. Yes.
Yes. Let me increase the volume to the maximum. Yeah.
क्यों बिटिया का बहु डेब्बा मुड़े में ना दे तो वो छूछ डेब्बा भर के सीखती है घर में सीखती है बहुआ है कि लाओ भला हम घर में भारी अब बाहर 10 आदमी बैठ है और कहते देखो ये नई दुल्हन आई है देखो डेब्बा उठा रहे थे अब उसे नहीं डेब्बा उठ रहा तो 4 आदमी हंस रहे थे पानी है घर पहले पानी में खूब रहत रहा अलते अंते की पानी दुनिया से पीका में ले जाते रहे बैलगाड़ी पता नहीं कि आप कुआं या सूख जाते जंगल सो है हर इनके पता लगा क्या खाए एक रोड तेरा दो रोड तेरा फिर न तेरा तो सही ले कहते पानी पीना का नहीं सा होता पानी दूर है यही एजेंसी में जमा किए प्रधान कहा कि आप निकालिए वहाँ जब गई मैं तो पुरुष वहाँ के यादव परिवार के थे कोई निकलवाने का तैयारी नहीं था महिला काफी परेशान थी पानी वही लाती थी तो उन्होंने कहा दीदी आप बनाइए हम निकलवाएंगे तो फिर सारी महिलाओं को मैं लेके 2 बोर निकाली बिखरा जाता है दिमाग हमारा का पानी जब घड़ी न फूटे चाहे मनुष्य मर जाए हाँ इतनी तकलीफ ही रही है तक तो एक कहानी बनाई की हुई
So that is Bavra, Tera Pani. Any quick thoughts or anything? We're waiting for the film to be made.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That was, yeah.
yeah. So the title of the film, I think it's Bavra Tera Pani. That was a song which I heard while I was traveling with this rural journalist, and like I really loved this power of the song, which said a pot of water is more precious than my husband's life. And we should remember the context of this film, where even now Khaballeria had like recently reported, like last year, a woman who was forced to do sati. Okay, her husband dies, and the woman was forced to jump into the fire of this husband. This happened last year. Such a state, from such a region, women are actually singing, "A pot of water is more precious than my husband's life," and that actually comes out of their pain, or their struggle to get a pot of water, of kilometers of walking every day. And this particular story is actually situated in a tribal village, where there is only one well, and the whole life of women is actually around that well. It's like the film actually begins, like the trailer begins with this woman just sitting idle there. Maybe this is the only place where she have this chit chats with other women, or just be with herself. And at night, I like there was this was how I picked this village, was when this women told me the story of how they spend the whole night sleeping around this well, because during summers the well dries out, and at night there is this stream which might come and gives you a few pots of water. So you are lucky enough, you might get few pots, which mean next day you don't have to walk kilometers. So this imagery of women sleeping in this open sky near this well. So these were the things which we wanted to document, and how this song actually reflects the whole situation. And like having that hand pump mechanic is another part of the film, because like how they became, this is like 10 years back, they got training, a bunch of women got trained by a feminist organization to become hand pump mechanics. By becoming hand pump mechanics was not easy. One, stepping out of their house when their husbands were not agreeing, fighting all that odds and becoming this, and it's a humongous job. It's a very so-called manly job of with heavy weight, etc. And doing that, and to fight against patriarchy, to fight against caste, and all because of the what when a hand pump goes wrong, it's not a man who gets irritated. He'll still continue playing cards in a village, but the women have to deal with that. So they becomes the solution makers when this problem is happening. So the like to have that is another narrative in the film. So yeah, so these are the films I am making, and to end the session, I want to end it with a quote from Coral Woman. Coral Woman actually ends with this quote: "Knowing is the key to caring, and with caring, there is hope that people will be motivated to take positive actions. They might not care even if they know, but they can't care if they are unaware." And I think that summarizes my this part of filmmaking journey, that sometimes I feel like the purpose or why I'm making these films are to fill in that gap of unawareness. I'm not thinking that, just by making a film, the world is going to change, or the problems of environment, climate change, displacement we are facing, we're witnessing each day is going to change like this. But we need conversations, we need such things. So maybe I hope my films will initiate those conversations. I'm not intending to give solutions through the film, but definitely to spark conversation. And yes, with that, I am open for conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Priya. And in fact, the idea of connection making and urgency is, coming into this medium of film. I mean, very interestingly. I should say, because I mean, bringing in climate, gentry, and all those aspects together in the medium is very significant. And with that note, let me invite Aparna Ishwaran, who is also who has known Priya for so long, and who is
The reason why I'm here.
and the reason why Priya is here, and Aparna has been a very active person in the KC initiative, and let me invite Aparna to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Priya. So happy and so thankful, Priya. I mean, I'm humbled to be a witness to your journey of filmmaking. And this group that we have started, Kochi Collective, this is our first talk, and we couldn't have got a better person to talk about the ethos of what we stand for as a group, because it's a group of interdisciplinary researchers, and we wanted to put forward a collective to strive to make research more interesting and not cliquish and not elitist, and also to make research more interesting and basically devoid of any sort of disciplinary boundaries of any sort. And what you have, Helena have shown me is that how when two women who are coming from very different walks of life come together for a single cause, devoid of thinking about labels and or specificities, such beautiful work can be created. Priya, thank you. And from the rest of the team of Kochi Collective also, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Priya. Looking forward to more.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually an amazing tie-up with researchers. Currently, I'm also working with NYU. They are actually working on migrant laborers, and so the COVID impact on migrant labor is something which I'll be working next month for a bunch of researchers, 2 researchers actually from NYU. Yeah, so
amazing, Priya. Hopefully, we can have you again once you finish with that.
Yeah.
I'll let Mathew continue.
Thank you, Aparna, for that. And in fact, this initiative that came through the Kochi Collective and through Aparna has been quite a wonderful add-on to our efforts. And what we have now is we'll go to the possible queries that are to come up in the comment box. And usually the first query takes the longest. And from our experience, and we will code the query for you. So if you could also write the name along with the query, we will code the query. Priya, and Priya may address. Thank you very much. We will wait a minute for the queries. Yes, we already have a query coming up. This is from Sri Lakshmi V. Can I quote the query, Priya?
Yeah.
Okay. Sri Lakshmi V asks, thank you for introducing us to such wonderful films. So my question is, you said while concluding the talk about they can't care if they are unaware, and in the opening talked about documentaries are boring. So is documentary serving the true purpose of awareness as it is reaching only to a few people? That's
so I completely understand why you asked. That's a question I had asked myself many times. I also came from an idea before deciding to become a documentary filmmaker. I have often heard, I also felt that, documentaries are boring, because the kind of documentaries which I had seen where there was this God's own voice narrating stuff and so much of archive material, and I had slept through many of them. I'm sure that many of you did. But we are going through a beautiful phase of filmmaking, let it be fiction or non-fiction, where there are amazing bunch of filmmakers who are experimenting with form and is actually making even fiction, like the line between a fiction and non-fiction is now actually blurred. And the only difference will be like in non-fiction or documentaries, we are actually dealing with real people in real situations. And like with Coral Woman, you had seen the imagery, the kind of quality which we are doing. It's not anymore blurry visuals or very boring long takes. We are actually experimenting with form to make it entertaining, at the same time it is informative. So yeah, so I'm actually trying through my work definitely to break that stereotype thoughts which are there in many of the audience. And it's a culture which need to be developed, and the culture of viewing good films, good documentaries will only happen when we are exposed to good cinema. Like I saw good documentaries, and that's how like I wanted to become a fiction filmmaker in the beginning. From that I became a non-fiction filmmaker, or I chose this medium to tell my stories, was because I saw some very interesting films and I felt that I can also tell similar powerful stories. So yeah, I think I should have phrased it in a better way. Yeah.
Okay, let me go to the next query if there is. Can I quote this? This is from Dr. Mathew. Thank you very much for your aesthetically rich and socially meaningful presentation on the theme climate change, displacement, and gender. Congratulations. My question as a student on political economy: we are living in a market economy and society which is so powerful that it is getting embedded into its fold everything. In this predicament, you have taken it as a challenge to side with nature and the voiceless and faceless people. What may be your personal experience in this adventurous journey?
Oh,
That's Dr.
don't
Mathew.
ask me. I had my first screening of Coral Woman in Chennai. It was at Max Muller Bhavan, if I'm not wrong. And the next day, DIG was in at the venue, and he said, "I want a copy of the film because I heard there is something against Sterlite." And I was not at that point, so I got a phone call from the officer, and he said, "I need to see the film." We got an information that there is Sterlite in it. No, he didn't say that, but the Max Muller team told me it is there. So he said he wanted to see the film. But I was also clever enough, I think. I did foresee that this is going to be a fight against um, sustainable development versus industrial revolution. Or so, and I am actually fighting against multinationals, if though I didn't intend to, but it came into the film and it is there, and I decided to keep it. So I got my censor certificate clearance. So I said I have a censor certificate that which tells me, okay, I can show the film anywhere. So if you have any problem with the screening or the film, or you need to say it on paper why you need to see the film, then I'll send you a copy. That was my reply. So they tried to pressurize Max Muller again, but they said they don't have a copy. But I'm only concerned, or my only fear for was to be very protective about my character, because we as filmmakers move on from film to film, but I completely respect and is protective about the characters who comes into my film. And even in the film's treatment, I made a solid treatment shift from a character point of view to a filmmaker point of view when it came to speak about industries and bigger corporate issues. So yeah, you have to make some you have to, like, because you're putting something out very loud. So yeah, sometimes it's a bit tough, but the experience completely changes you. Like my cinematographer had dived across the globe in different oceans, different seas, And she said that the sight she had seen underwater was so heartbreaking. And when we finished the shoot of Coral Woman, I had two women divers as my crew. So one person gifted me a steel straw, and another person gifted me a cloth bag. So that was a habit which came into me, which was given by these divers, because most of the divers you see, they are so environment conscious. So the film actually inspired quite a lot that way also. Yeah, we can take the next.
Okay, so this is the next query, and that's from Alolika Sutradhar. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this excellent and intriguing lecture. The way you threw light upon the interconnectedness of gender and climate change, and how the existence and survival of underprivileged gender, that is women, is further threatened in times of climate change, gives us a totally new perspective to explore climate change further. Ma'am, this is Alolika, a third-year student of history in Hansraj College. It would be an absolute pleasure for us as a department to have you. That's more like a comment. Have you with us for a lecture? Yes, that's a
I'm
comment.
not a lecture person. I completely try to avoid, especially this online sessions. I'm here just because Aparna is a very close friend, and I really love this initiative she is doing. If you want to screen my films, I would be happy to send any of these films, and you can have a screening. And my team is also there. It is always nice to have like some different perspective to hear. Like Uma is a good speaker, my protagonist, or the cinematographers. So one of us will definitely attend your session. Yeah.
Uh, Sorry, I missed out a query that came before Alolika. Uh, that's my mistake. And shall I quote Praveen Jolly? Praveen Jolly asks, in Coral Woman documentary portion, the scientist is explaining there was a dwindling of coral reefs across the globe during approximately 2014-2016 period. So is there an ecological inherent problem with corals, evolution itself, than global warming or any other external influence? Have you researched that angle of coral evolution? That's Praveen Jolly.
It's very scientific. If I understand the question, you are asking about coral evolution. Corals had stayed in this world much before us, and corals are something which grows very slowly, but they had grown so big over the years that even it's said that the corals in Australia Great Barrier Reef, you can see it from the moon. So you can imagine something which grows so slowly, it's now seen from the moon. So they had lived centuries and sustained many of climate change, other impacts like that. But at the same time, why I focused so much on corals when it comes to climate change is because you can see it. That they are losing those colors. They are like the thermometer of Earth, which is actually telling us there is something wrong and it need attention. And this is something which we can reverse if we give time. There is a beautiful initiative called by Sylvia Earle itself, which asks communities and government to leave a portion of the ocean untouched by human. I think that's all we have to do. Just let it be untouched by human, it will recover. And this is something which is proved. They had actually allowed certain areas across the globe where they have been untouched by human, and the corals are recovering, the marine ecosystem is recovering. So it's possible, like the statistics which I shared about the COVID impact itself shows this huge difference. Yeah.
Okay. So am I audible? All right. Shall I quote the next query? That's from Mohammed Taliyat. Thank you, Priya, for this wonderful session. I would like to know about your priority of choosing content in a movie. because each topic have many dimensions and issues. So will you include all or you select some? Because if you include some, maybe you have to exclude other. That's
Yeah.
Muhammad Taliyat.
Yeah, that's do happen, but sometimes you follow your heart. That's all you can do, right? For example, I in the beginning I showed you the image of those women who go and collect the kapa pikas. So when I planned for that sequence, I didn't know about the Pepsi, the commercial interest in that particular thing. So I went to shoot it just because I just loved this. I like when I heard about these women who are free divers and from that coast, and I wanted to document that. And I thought that it will be a very nice sequence with my character. But while interacting with them, they kept saying about Pepsi Pashi, which means Pepsi algae. So I really got fascinated. What is this Pepsi thing? Why is it called Pepsi Pashi? And that's how my research led to this algae is actually used for in Pepsi and other Coke products. So then it became a huge question that what should I focus on? Should I focus on these women are doing it, or should I focus on how this big companies are actually making them cultivate this product? And there I made this decision. These are small, like they are smaller fish. The uh, bigger fishes are actually, or bigger problems are actually the corporates. So it was my decision as a filmmaker to focus on that than this. So sometimes you make that a decision. Yeah, you have to avoid certain things, but basically it is actually following your heart. I think that always lead to the correct place.
Thank you, Priya. And the next query, if I may, is from Adarsh Cyril. And again, Adarsh, thank you for the intervention on the technical side as well. So this is Adarsh Cyril. This isn't a query, but an appreciation for all your work, and particularly that one shot from that upcoming film, where a lady is followed by a dozen goats on a high road with that big canvas of evening sky behind.
Yeah.
Just them walking on a steady frame. That is a shot I would want to see on a full 30-foot cinema screen.
Others, even I want to see it on a big screen. I don't know when, but she's an amazing character. She's called Bellama. She is the only woman in that village who doesn't go and collect water, because in her house is very interesting. The role reversal. The husband goes and collect water because he is deaf, and so he can't go. He can't do the manly job, which is actually taking the goats into the forest. And remember, this is a forest full of dacoits, bandits, and so it's not like a very easy thing for a woman to go and graze goat inside this forest. And if you see, like I asked somebody, why is she dressed up like a man? She actually squeezed her sari into a pants, and she's actually wearing a pant. So somewhere trying to disguise as a man and doing this goat grazing. She didn't let me come inside go with her inside the forest, telling it's not safe. But yeah, I do want to go and like explore the forest with her. Yeah.
Okay,
And
thank you.
The film is shot in 4K. Like this is first for project. What you saw is HD, but the real film is 4K. So it would definitely look good on big screen.
Okay. Thank you, Priya. And we have the query coming from Alolika, who had made the comment before. The query is like this. My question to ma'am is, when we talk of gender as an integral aspect to climate change, how do we locate the vulnerabilities of women face while trying to find a way out of a crisis?
Yeah. So through Babra Tere Pani, like that was the whole aim, that we are not going to make this film to crib about, oh, women bechari, she's facing so much of issues because of water scarcity. We do want to acknowledge, okay, there is a problem. So that is why in the film we are going to have uh, the hand pump mechanic, because her journey is incredible, and we intend to bring her into this village and empower this women, so they become like, because that village has a lot of issues when it comes to caste, etc. So that is a village which is actually like the seat is reserved for a ST person, but it is actually that ST person who is the panchayat head is actually a puppet of an upper caste person. So there was supposed to have an election this year, and there is huge anger against him being a puppet, and they really wanted a representative from their end. Because of the COVID, the elections are yet to happen. But yeah, I do see that these women are going to be like taking the lead, and if there is a change, that I do see that coming from them, because stories of from Rajkumari, etc., are like that. For like the story she shared about this upperclassman. She also shared with me an incident where she went to repair a hand pump in an upper caste guy's place, and when he saw her, and first the surprise that, oh, a woman is going to repair the hand pump. The second is a lower caste woman is going to uh, repair the hand pump, and he said, "Let it be. I don't want my hand pump to be repaired." And she said, "Just because of I'm a woman or I'm a lower caste, my house is cleaner than your hand pump area." And she said, "You can I'm challenging you. If I'm able to repair it, you can like we can take it as a challenge." Then he was okay, a woman, what will she do? So he challenged her by saying, "Okay, if you're not able to do it, I'll take you to my home." It had connotations. And she said, "Okay, I'll take that challenge, and if I repair it, I'll take your wife to my house." And she actually won, and he had to say sorry for his comments. So she has incredible stories, and these stories are around us about women who are fighting against climate change, who are bringing solutions. Yeah, that's what we want to bring in through this film.
Thank you, Priya. Next is a comment. That's a query whether there are the movies available on the online platform. Yeah.
Coral Woman, as I said, if you go to coralwoman.com, I just made, just before the session, I just made it available. So anyone can watch it. And you can also go through our impact plans. And if anybody want to partner, we'll be happy to do that. Gidiga Wapatu, I need to consult Helena because the copyrights are with the university. But she also intend to have a series of conversations around it. Yeah.
And next is a question from Deepa VK. Thank you, Priya, for the wonderful presentation. Wanted to know how these experiences reshaped your views on the kind of issues you dealt with / dealing with.
Yeah, sometimes there is anger. Sometimes it's so inspiring. You learn quite a lot. Like, let it be this tribal community from Wayanad, or let it be this women from this parched land. I thought I am a feminist, and I found bigger feminists in this rural area. So yeah, who had fought more patriarchy than I had even imagined. So yeah, it is inspiring each day, and I think that is the quest, because making these films are not that easy. Like, for example, when we were shooting that tribal film, we had this elephant chase, which was almost like losing life. But at that moment also, what I was doing when everybody was screaming was to document that moment. And Bundelkhand is a very dry area, and while shooting that Bavra Tera Pani, we actually stayed back in the village. And this land is so notorious. And when I told my Khabar lady, a person, where will we stay? should we stay in the police station, because there are no hotels there. There is no development there. There's no electricity there. Where will we stay? In the police station? And the first thing is definitely not the police station. It's the most unsafe place. So the locals actually opened up a building which is under construction for a hospital nearby, a government hospital. And so it's just bricks, which is not even cemented. There is no electricity, no water, no bathroom. We just got some mattresses from a marriage space. That means that, like, you can imagine what quality it will be. We were carrying our own bed sheets. We didn't have a toilet. We went to this bushes around this building. We actually put a lock. We took a chain and put the grills together and locked it from inside with our own lock. So it was a huge risk. Sometimes you have to go through, but it's like a drug, right? You know, these stories, these experiences. So it keeps going.
Thank you. Can we take for 4 more queries with your permission?
Yeah, we can quickly.
Okay, we'll quickly go through that. This is Amit Kumar, a student from Bihar, student at Hansraj College. The question is about women who collect leaves, which is used for tobacco. Their livelihood depends on tobacco business. But now these plants are under forest department. Now they are struggling for livelihood. Please throw light upon this. That's Amit Kumar from Hansraj College.
Amit, we'll definitely connect. So right now, Kabarleria reporters are covering Bihar elections. So they will be around there. So I'll definitely tell them to look into this issue. So maybe you can send me some more information that will help. Yeah.
Next is from Gokul KS, who's doing research in film studies in IIT. Thank you for the session. Just curious to know, as a documentary filmmaker for the medium, what were your influences? Which other documentaries on environmental issues you watched influenced the process of your filmmaking? That's Gokul KS.
I think the process was evolved by many films, not just environmental films. I generally don't like the way environmental films are done, so isolated and without giving the connection with human beings. And my storytelling is always about how I connected with human beings and make it relatable. So that is there. Like one latest film I would definitely recommend where you can watch is Octopus Teacher, which is there in Netflix. It is it's actually a beautiful relationship between octopus and a diver, and it's documented over a very long time, and how he himself actually evolves with the relationship. It teaches you to respect environment. So that is something I need to see a narrative arc, because I see filmmaking as a storytelling. It's not about, I could have easily, like the kind of film which Uma wanted me to make was a film about corals, which talks about corals, etc. But I weaved in a very personal story into it so that it connects. And then through Uma, we were actually exploring corals. So that's what I tried to do. Yeah.
So we have the last 2 queries now. And the first query is from Sharon Jose. These days, it's not easy to capture masses' attention to serious issues through long seminars or lectures. So here is where mediums like movies, music, or documentaries play a crucial role. So how much do you think has your documentaries reached a bigger audience and made a social impact? And what sort of audience is in your mind while you do your work? That's Sharon Jose.
So as definitely, when I, like I said, initially my filmmaking was just restricted to festivals and that kind of screening. But with Coral Woman, how we went about is like, I don't even ask who you are when somebody asks if I can arrange a screening. I just assure that there are minimum 10 people watching the film together, because as I said, what I intend to do through the films is to spark that conversation. So if a single person watching it or versus a bunch of people watching it, I am very confident that the conversation which follow will have a different impact. So I just make them assure that there are 10 people going to watch the film. So we had like in my list of festivals so far, we had 60 national and international screening in the last 1.5 years. And like I'm not including other public screenings like colleges or institutes doing, etc. So that will be definitely there. And now we want to multiply the impact by having this book, having this portal, having this art installation, which all resonate the vision of the film. So we are trying new ways how we can take it to. There was actually when we attended a impact lab, we got someone on board who promised us to have a screening across the coastal lines of India. But then this happened in March, and then the COVID happened, so that really impacted quite a lot. But we are having a lot of online screenings, which I'm not even counting. So like an average of 300 audience generally we get in each online screening.
Thank you, Priya. And this is our last query. This is from Priya Darshini Balachandra. I quote her: "Wonderful experience with you, ma'am. Water always plays an important role in women's life, especially in rural women all over the world. As a documentary filmmaker, your experience is different from us. So I have a small question to ask. Please share it with your experience. Why we always considered water as a women's matter? Is this taboo still existing? And the last is, how do gender perceptions change in water distribution in your filming areas throughout India?" That's Priya Darshini.
Yeah. It's so much connected with women. That's my experience. But I am definitely an outsider. But with Bavra, the way we are working is the team is always like a Kabal area plus um, plus like a crew like me coming from an urban setup. But like with Khabar area, the face is so identifiable. They belong to that country, so they are like those people who speak their language. So we have a mixed team, and so the relationship, the trust we have is attained quite a lot because of that, and we were able to catch that nuances because of having Cavaleria reporter. Like if you remember the trailer, there is this place where the lady is actually laughing by telling talking about this song which talks about the pain. So that kind of thing doesn't comes out with me from an urban setup going inside a rural space and just asking these women, do you have water problem? That doesn't comes out. So this is a very experimental film for me with such a collaboration with the people who belongs to that place. But I had seen this water and women thing even while making a film on salt in Gujarat. So yeah, it's definitely there.
Priya, there was one more query that I missed. Let's wind that up with this query. This is Srijit Arkamat, and once again with Adarsh, let me thank you for the technical support that you gave us during the talk, and Srijit has been designing posters for us. So this is Srijit. Thank you so much for the insightful topic you touched upon in your films. One of the biggest challenges in filmmaking is managing the post-production with too much of footage to process. Can you shed some light on how you manage the workflow?
It's very true. And I also imagine how docu-filmmakers do. And thankfully, I come from a very television background, and that comes with an experience of producing a 20-minute film, a feature program every week, one after the other. So that experience actually helped me quite a lot to make my process more planned and prepared. So I am not a filmmaker who shoot a lot over a very long time. I prefer smaller shoots, but intense and in-depth kind of thing. So in that way, and I do believe in a lot of pre-production, so that really reduces the amount of footage. Otherwise, it is going to be very tough, as you mentioned, to go through so much of footage and then just bring it down to a 20 or 40 or 1 hour film. It's very tough. But luckily, I found a balance and I figured my formula.
So yeah, with that, the query session is ending. And Priya, I mean, we should say that this is the longest query session we've had.
Oh.
And it's the long day that you had before. It's lovely that you shared your thoughts. And let me first thank Priya Thuvassery, who was with us for this ongoing engagements with Ecologies program that the IUCSSRE has been initiating. And today, with the Kochi Collective converging with this, with wonderful support from Aparna, Hamida, and Shiri, we are broadening this platform into newer medias and newer ways of looking at so many subjects and subjectivities, if I may put it so. So, with the permission of the IUCSSRE, people who are here, Professor KMCP, and the Kochi Collective, let me once again thank Priya, and hope you can associate with us in some of our broadening endeavors. And we also thank all the audience who've been with us, who opened up the field further, and you've been always very engaged in the process. So let me thank the audience as well. And I think now we will close the forum for the day.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Bye.